Guide, this is the artificial intelligence voice of Bill Maher narrating this pod-slice summary of the Club Random podcast. In the podcast, Bill Maher and Margaret Cho engage in a free-flowing conversation exploring Margaret's unique childhood, her encounters with the BDSM community, and her interactions with pets. Cho elaborates on her childhood experiences, stating that she spent extended periods in her parents' gay bookstore. Immersed in an unconventional environment from an early age, her curiosity about different experiences was nourished. She is exposed to diverse themes embodying sexual, cultural, and lifestyle varieties that perhaps sparked her adventurous nature. Adding humor to the mix, the duo also discusses Cho's affectionate pet dog. Her responds with wit to Luchaya's enthusiastic attempts at playful interaction, stating, "No tongue." All right, I can see they always want to get that tongue in there. You know, and they're very sneaky about doing it. Their playful banter evidently underscores their shared love for animals. A significant part of the conversation relates to Cho's interactions with the BDSM community. She portrays her relationship with a man she met in a dungeon, an establishment that serves as a meeting point for the BDSM community. Her ex-boyfriend had particular preferences for BDSM, and Cho confesses, "He wanted to light my leg on fire and was reciprocal to being tied with ropes with no actual interest in classic sex." She even allows for some humor in this discussion, with Maher saying he didn't want you to see it, draft test maybe, but also maybe like he just was sexual in a different way. Maher's curiosity about the dynamics that draw people into the BDSM culture leads to a broader dialogue on sexuality. Conversation ventures into the realm of human sexuality, exploring the spectrum beyond the conventional, with Maher cheekily referring to the vagina and penis as naughty places. They touch upon people's diverse erotic interests, highlighting phenomena like BDSM more. Maher wittily remarks Romans were doing it quite a bit, referring to anal sex, suggesting that such practices are not as new a society may consider them to be. In the end, the conversation is an unconventional nexus of topics, from living above a gay bookstore to BDSM and pets, making it an amusing and thought-provoking interaction. Despite the complexity and diversity of the themes discussed, the conversion remains lighthearted and fluid, emphasizing the naturalness of all aspects of human existence, including those we often term as a taboo. As Margaret Cho and Bill Maher delve deeper into their candid exchange, the focus turns towards the diversity of human sexuality and gender identity. Cho shares her experiences working at a lesbian BDSM collective as a teenager, an environment that nourished her broad understanding of human sexuality. Maher adds humor to the discussion by quipping about the collective's human resources department, emphasizing the complexities associated with maintaining a professional environment that centers around sexuality. Maher and Cho then discuss the landscape of transgender issues, focusing on the intricacies of transitioning and the availability of surgical and hormonal treatments. And the conversation underscores the vast range of sexualities, summing up Facebook's 56 different gender options. As an indicator of this variety, the duo highlights the positive impact of the internet in helping people discover and recognize their identities, saying, "You don't feel alone," while also raising concerns about the potential perils of gender transitioning in children. To a lighter note, Cho and Maher share a fond memory of visiting a strip club in Honolulu, illuminating their personal lives outside the professional sphere. The mutual respect and affection they have for each other are apparent throughout the conversation. Their discussion also provides insights about how busy schedules often isolate comedians, restricting their social interactions to professional engagement. She discusses how her continuous engagement with stand-up comedy has been a major part of her identity, to which Maher offers a contrasting perspective. While Maher understands stand-up, as always, having the antennas up for comedic material, he disagrees with the idea of constantly being on the job. Despite their different attitudes towards their craft, both Maher and Cho exhibit an undeniable passion for their work that continues to shape their identities. In the middle of Cafe Random podcast, Hosts Bill Maher and Margaret Cho continue candid revelations about their lives and comedic personas. Their conversation is punctuated by bouts of laughter, humor, and an embracing of sometimes challenging topics. Try switching from their creative processes in stand-up comedy to intimate personal anecdotes. They discuss recording their stage performances using tape recorders early in their careers. They reminisce about the laborious practice of switching tapes, which, far from being burdensome, reflects their dedication to their craft. Their conversation drifts from stand-up comedy to some arguably unconventional topics involving intimate preferences and practices, with Margaret Cho leading the discussion. She unapologetically brings up kinks and fetishes, to which Maher responds with humor and occasional disbelief. Her banter displays their comfort with raw conversations, providing the audience with glimpses of their personal lives. Their discourse also veers into the realm of bathroom humor and pee jokes, maintaining their spirits throughout. They explore differing sexual preferences via practices, showcasing their acceptance of diverse perspectives. Maher and Cho's humorous and unfiltered dialogue, devoid of judgment, underscores their inclusive attitudes, representing a refreshing break from society's norms. Exploring their living preferences, both agree on the merits of living alone. Maher, having been married for 12 years, feels while company is appreciated, constantly being on top of each other can be overwhelming. This discussion reveals a snapshot of their personality, providing the audience insights about their personal choices and preferences. Reflecting on their upbringing, Maher shares his experience growing up in an idyllic town in the 1960s, a stark contrast to Cho's more challenging childhood. A rare-friendly conversation, enriched with anecdotes and experiences, fosters a sense of camaraderie, providing the audience a deeper insight into their personality. In the second half of the Cafe Random podcast, hosts Bill Maher and Margaret Cho go deep into personal and societal experiences shaped by their respective upbringings. Maher brings up his 1960s northern New Jersey upbringing, painting a picture of a time of blatant racism. Writes Willie Mays, the baseball legend, who even in the most liberal cities experienced discrimination. Stark contrast to more accepting times today, emphasizing the significant progress made. As the conversation takes a personal turn, Maher's reflections on the shock and sadness he felt after the assassination of JFK as a 7-year-old, CIA critical moment in history, spotlights his early political sensitivities. Margaret shares interesting insights into her Korean-American parents. Fascinatingly, despite having lived in America since 1963, they've never voted or participated in American politics, as they never felt welcomed here. By this, in turn, provides a concoction of themes such as immigration, cultural exclusion, and the American dream's conflicting aspects. Starting a step into their personal lives, both Maher and Cho divulge their relationship with substances, from alcohol to pot. They delve into their experiences and habits, citing notable names like Sean Penn, providing an intriguing peek into their lives beyond the stage. As the conversation unfolds, they explore the stark changes in their hometowns. The current San Francisco, predominantly populated by either the ultra-rich or unhoused, seems like a whole new world to Margaret. Bill also voices how current scheduling for a comedian, where you would go to different places in one night, seems overwhelming compared to earlier days. Finally, they delve into the contemporary era of comedy, touching upon the political diversity within their audience and the challenges it presents. Maher confesses that he now finds a more politically mixed crowd at his shows, some conservatives and fewer woke people, offering a reflection on the changing dynamics of comedy audiences. Throughout this portion of the Cafe Random podcast, Maher and Cho grace the conversation with poignant personal anecdotes, humorous interaction, and insightful commentary on societal changes, creating an intimate atmosphere for the listener. The dialogue of the Club Random podcast with Bill Maher and Margaret Cho continues to float around several themes, adding depth to their dissections of society, culture, and the comedy industry. Maher and Cho explore the concept of whitewashing in Hollywood, highlighting the lack of Asian representation in the industry. They speak about the shift in audience composition for programs and films, from a white majority to a more inclusive mix, an observation Maher terms as checking all the boxes before even writing the script. They touch upon the atmosphere of paranoia in comedy clubs, where an ill-timed tweet from an audience member about a joke can lead to potentially career-ending backlash. The influence of cancel cultures comes into focus as they discuss the case of Shane Gillis, who was dropped from Saturday Night Live for a controversial joke made about Asians. Maher and Cho suggest this cancel culture phenomenon can lead to an intense retrospective scrutiny that comics must navigate while treading the shifting lines between humor and offensiveness. Cho voices her enthusiasm for younger Asian comedians such as Sabrina Wu, Jenny Yang, Ali Wong, and others, expressing her faith in the next generation's transformative impact on the comedy scene. Both Maher and Cho express their love for stand-up comedy and their intention of continuing until they are physically unable to perform, wherein lies the crux of their discussion, the lifelong love affair with stand-up, despite its inherent challenges. As the conversation switches gears, Maher highlights the frightening potential of artificial intelligence, alluding to how Elon Musk had earlier warned about AI's existential threat. Her worries about how AI is fast outpacing human understanding, suggesting a potential dystopian future where humans may lose control over their own creation. Cho confesses her screen addiction, especially with TikTok, and talks about how she has to consciously make the effort to lengthen her attention span by indulging in long movies in between her hours spent on the digital platform. Maher also chimes in about his personal consumption habits, stating he rarely watches movies all at once, instead treating them like books and consuming them in chunks. I sign off on a lighter note as they reflect on this unique, leisurely movie-watching method as a small antidote to the overwhelming screen culture they find themselves in today. This portion of the Club Random podcast continues with a candid discussion between Bill Maher and Margaret Cho. Cho delves into her personal journey towards sobriety, mentioning her struggle with substances during a period leading up to their meeting in Hawaii years ago. She implies a rebirth-like experience in her sobriety, humorously saying that she had consumed so many narcotics in the past that she felt high in her now sober state. Maher commends her resilience while sharing his experience with alcohol consumption, albeit in a seemingly controlled capacity. He chuckles while relating how his partying habits might have tampered with his career's upward trajectory in the past. Maher and Cho's discussion about personal highs and lows evolves into an interesting conversation about personal evolution over time. Maher candidly acknowledges men's slower maturation process and encourages acceptance of one's past self, as it had shaped them into the people they are now. A shared conversation between Maher and Cho illuminates their unique personal viewpoints and journeys, shedding light on the intertwined relationship between their personal lives and their professional careers. Cho remarks on her newfound happiness and contentment in life, which Maher not only observes but also appreciates by highlighting how he sees it reflected in her overall demeanor. They talk about their shared experiences and the changes they've undergone over the course of their friendships. Following their personal discussion, they switch to a lighter, playful tone as Maher jokingly invites Cho to work together. Their camaraderie continues as they express mutual acknowledgement and admiration of each other's resilience in dealing with personal adversity. The conversation draws to a surprising end when Maher remembers the forgotten guest, Cho's well-behaved dog, drawing a chuckle from Cho and rounding off their conversation on a warm, relatable note.